All right, with me right now, once again, we had him on back in December before we took our giant hiatus. Lowell Dean, director of Wolf Cop, another Wolf Cop, 13 Erie. You've done TV stuff with the Henson Company too, I guess?
Yeah, opposite end of the spectrum. I was involved with a children's show called Hi Opie and Opie's Home, basically about a lovable Muppet boy who his misadventures in preschool and at home with his family.
Oh,
Very different than Wolf Cop.
yes, quite a bit. Quite a bit. Now, let's get right into another Wolf Cop because I wanted to see this. Well, first off, I love the first movie, and I wanted to see the sequel regardless because I was going to watch it regardless. But then I saw the poster for another Wolf Cop and the take on Cobra and everything, and I absolutely love it, and I was immediately sold. I didn't even have to see a trailer or anything like that. I just wanted to see another Wolf Cop. So, what were the differences and the challenges in going into a sequel, trying to make it as good, if not better, than the original?
Well, that was the challenge right there. It was, the first one. I don't think there was any real expectation for it, or I mean, we had expectations, but I'm sure it was kind of just universally thought of as a big joke. I mean, when you call a movie Wolf Cop, it's like, okay, it's a werewolf cop. What's going to happen? But I think as people saw, we took it maybe a little too seriously. Like I wanted to create like a new superhero, and yeah, have violence and weirdness and sex, but Lou was to me like my Wolverine. So I took him seriously. And when the second film, I mean, prior to the second film, when the first one came out, and we got a pretty decent response for something so absurd, then we all just felt pressure that, okay, regardless of what time or money we have, it has to be twice as good, if not better. And that proved to be a very difficult task.
In what aspects did it seem? Was it just a budget constraints, or what was the deal with that?
Yeah, it's everything. It's money, it's time, it's ambition. I mean, the first film, I think we had 2.5 action scenes, and there was many that hit the cutting room floor on the first one, just in terms of things like budget. I wanted to have in the first scene in the bathroom in the first film when he transforms, and two guys basically come down, some thugs, and he kills them. He kind of kills them off screen, but up until weeks before we were shooting, I had a whole storyboarded fight planned. It was going to be like this epic reveal. He's still like gross and greasy from ripping off his skin, and they were going to knock over bathroom stalls and heads in urinals and things like that. And sitting down with the PM and the producers, looking at the budget, they're like, we can't afford to do three fight scenes. So we kept shuffling things off, and in the third film, we started very big, and naturally we had to shuffle some things off and bring it down because the budget was, I think, just over 2 million versus the first one was just over one. And but we shot the second film again in 17 days. So 17 days to do a movie like this is kind of madness, and you just kind of embrace it by because you have to, and you just run as fast as you can, and so that made it a very stressful experience because anyone who knows practical effects or has worked with them or even flirted with the idea of them knows it's not as simple as one line on the script says head explodes, and then when you're shooting a movie in 17 days, you average 7 to 10 pages a day. So if you look at a piece of paper and you see one line says head explodes, and you know that that's going to take half an hour to an hour, and you know that you have 12 hours a day if you're lucky, you can have a pretty quick panic attack when you realize what you're taking on.
Oh, I can imagine. I can imagine. Plus, you have to. How long does? I'm trying to. My brain's not working today. I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember. Oh, how long does Leo have to stay in makeup, or in a chair to get ready, or is it just kind of like mainly a big suit with the just the facial prosthetics?
Well, we got a lot better over the course of the first film to the second. When we started Wolf Cop, the first one, I would say it was about 4 hours to make him up, and that was the very first attempt. We timed it. We wanted to know what we were getting ourselves into. But I will say by the second one, towards the middle or the end, Emerson Ziffel, the effects artist, and Leo had it down to about an hour and a half, maybe an hour at times. So what was great was we were, blocking all this time with the ADs and schedule it, and assuming we're going to need, 2 or 3 hours, and they'd always be ready. So that helped us move. That was a good little advantage to help us keep moving.
Okay. So now, when it comes to doing the sequel, was there an immediate kind of what's the word I'm looking for here? Was there an immediate desire for the sequel, or was that something that you kind of had to think about and see whether or not it would be worth it?
I was nervous to do it unless we were sure people wanted it. Cinecu, the producers, were pretty sure they wanted to do it. I think they were more confident than us that either they wanted to do it or that there'd be a good response. And sure enough, it came out, and I mean, I don't know how you measure it or judge it, but because it's not like a big theatrical release where you can say, oh, we made X amount of millions on the weekend, but I'm sure based on sales or distribution or whatever, they realized that it wouldn't be a bad idea to do a sequel. So they were more. I mean, I genuinely wanted to do it, but I was probably the last one to be like, no, we have to do this. I didn't take much convincing, but I was nervous that if it bombed or something. But we did it, and it turns out like when you start going to festivals or fan expos and you meet people, you start realizing people have seen it and enough people like it that you feel excited about doing another one.
Now you have I'm not. This isn't a spoiler because he's in the trailer. But you have a pseudo American celebrity in this film.
Yes, I'm sure
Who
you're alluding to Kevin Smith.
I am alluding to Kevin Smith, the biggest American Canadian there is.
Yes.
Was he a fan of the first movie, or did you guys have to seek him out?
I don't even know if he's a fan of the first movie. He it was kind of a bit of serendipity. He happened to be in our home province of Saskatchewan where we were shooting. I think he was scouting for Moose Jaws, which he's developing, and anyone who knows Saskatchewan knows that's where Moose Jaw is. There's an actual town called Moose Jaw. So Kevin Smith happened to be in our province. Our producers sought him out, and he came to our set. And just as things go, it's enough begging and pleading, and maybe he saw our indie spirit, and he said, "Sure, let me play ball." So he came on board and gave us a day as the mayor. He played the mayor of Woodhaven, which was a blast, especially because of his obvious connection to Canadiana.
And his name is great, Bubba. That's just great.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah,
Now,
it was fun because I don't know if we'd get him, but it worked out.
now, is there any other like maybe Canadian celebrities you might be looking? 'Cause I have a suggestion. Now, just take it from me. I'm just some stupid podcast host, but I think who would make a great wolf in the third movie, if there's a third movie, which I hope there is. Harley Morenstein
Okay,
from Epic Mealtime. The guy's like 6'7", super hairy. He wouldn't have to do much makeup.
that's funny. That's a good idea.
He's I think where's he in Quebec? I want to say, or yeah, I want to say
Really?
yeah. So, but it's I think it would be awesome to see him because he's actually been in a Kevin Smith movie before. He was in the Kevin Smith segment of the that anthology movie. What was it?
The Christmas one?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he played a pimp, which was
Weird.
weird.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
There's a connection. Yeah.
yeah. So and he was also in what was it? Oh God, Tusk. He played the oh what the hell is it? The border guard that was like grilling Justin Long.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
I
was it.
didn't know that either. I didn't remember. I saw Tusk. I liked it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, see so many awesome things in Canada. You guys are awesome up there. I love you guys. Um, so now when it comes to this sequel, how much where did you up the gore in regards to like preparation time and everything?
Oh, a lot. I don't know. I mean, most of our approach to prep was literally, what did we have in the first one? Triple it, quadruple it. What can you afford? And I know that Casey Marcus, our effects guru, who had like all the gunfire and squibbing and stuff, said we used like just gallons of blood. He had like buckets and buckets. So we always had it on hand, and we always seemed to be running out.
Well, that's never good. Running out of blood.
No. Well, we always thought fast, and we'd come up with something. But there was definitely an excess of blood in this one.
Now, this is going out way before the theatrical release of the film, which is December 8th, and I think you should all go out and see it. So I can't really say too much, but there's a certain character that I loved in part one that's back now. Oh God, I can't say his name without spoiling it because it's such a great, cool thing. I'll just say this: is this some of your goo? That character.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, anyone who sees the trailer that's out there will see who it is. So,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I wouldn't have done the sequel without my trifecta of Leo Fafard, who's Wolf Cop, Amy Maticio, who's Tina, and Jonathan Cherry, who's Willie.
Yeah, Willie is. He every scene he's in, he steals. It's just I love his performances and the bit when he's watching TV. That's a big spoiler. I can't say what happens there, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
When he's on the couch, that is just some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen in my life. Did you allow for improv on set, or is it all right off book?
Very improv, very improv. I mean, it's easier to do, I think, sometimes when you're the writer because it's easy to disregard your own work. But
Right.
there's always a script. We always have a full script. We always have a full outline. But there was so much improv on the first film, most of it from Jonathan Cherry, that when we came time to do the second one, I said before we shoot, because we have so little time, let's talk about this in detail before. So what was a really good experience, which I would want to duplicate on any sequel moving forward, is we did, you should do a read through obviously before, but we did like a read through retreat where for a day, myself, Cherry, Amy, and Leo sat in a room, went through the script, said nothing, just read it, and then we said like, let's go through it again, and this time shout out any idea you have as we reach scenes. So there's so many of the funniest lines for sure came out of the cast, and Jonathan Cherry, not a scene wouldn't go by where he'd raise his hand and say like, "What if I add this? What if I, do I need to say these two words? Could I just say this word in a look, or could I say this and then pay it off in this scene later on?" So they contribute so much. Every moment that they're on screen, they own those characters.
Now the film is still going through the festivals, right?
Yeah, we screened in Fantastic Fest in Austin, and we just did Fantasia in Montreal. And I don't know what's next, but I'm hoping that a couple more festivals happen before our theatrical release in Canada. I do know that. Oh yeah, we just did Popcorn Frights in Miami last weekend.
Now, what's the overall response been?
So far, positive. I haven't seen any negatives yet. I'm sure they're coming, but they haven't hit yet. And there's been quite a few reviews too. So I think I think since so much of the heavy lifting is out of the way, both in terms of how critics would kind of, I guess, understand the movie and just what the hell it is, I think we got that out of the way with the first one. So basically, if you're reviewing or watching Wolf Cop 2 and you don't like it, I'm sorry, that's on you, because the first one came out and the second one is more of the same except amped up and crazier. I mean, that's what we were going for, at least. So if anyone comes out and questions the artistic merit of it, I think like they speak for themselves.
Well, yeah, and I'm pretty sure. Like, I mean, I know you said you took it seriously, the film, which I think everybody who makes a movie should take it seriously. But you also probably were you going in, you weren't expecting this to be high art.
No, no, not at all. I mean, we even made a concept trailer for the first Wolf Cop, and part of the reason was because I was very well aware that because of the name, you can't leave it up to the imagination, because potential producers or investors or other people, it could go a million ways. You know, it could be Sharknado, it could be Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter that takes itself maybe too seriously.
Oh yeah.
It could be a lot of things. So I really wanted to create a concept trailer that in 2 minutes would show we're kind of taking it seriously, like a comic book movie, but obviously we know it's called Wolf Cop, so there's going to be jokes. He's going to be hard drinking. This is not like Batman, you know. This is it's a mixture of comic influences, but yes, of course, there's comedy in there. And I think if anything, we put the comedy more in the forefront from the very beginning on the sequel, because the first film, I thought it was hilarious, even like the subtle humor in the first half. But I think because we didn't give a lot of big laughs in the first few scenes, audiences may not have known what our tone was, or they may not have known if they have permission to laugh. So we made it very clear, like when the second one started, we're like, okay, right out of the gate, it has to be just stupid as hell, so people know they have permission to laugh throughout the movie.
Yeah, and one of my favorite. I can't. I'm not spoiling anything when I say this, but one of my favorite sequences is mid credits at the end.
Yeah,
You know what I'm talking about
I think so. We
with
have a couple credit
with
scenes.
the nun.
Oh yes, yeah,
Yeah.
and that's a total callback to the first film that people probably won't even get.
Oh no, you got to go back and watch the first movie to understand what was going on. Yeah, but it's I couldn't help but laugh throughout the entire film, and I understand that it's called Wolf Cop, and you get what you know what you get when you're going in. But did you intend for it to be just like really laugh out loud funny, or did you kind of want to keep the tone a little bit kind of serious because he is slaughtering people?
Yeah, I didn't want it to be like Naked Gun or slapstick where it was like wall to wall laughs. I wanted there to be moments where you actually were invested in the character. I find like it's a tricky kind of thing to walk, but um, I don't like the. I mean, I like all kinds of humor, but for Wolf Cop, I didn't want it to be the jokes were the basis of the film. I wanted it to be the characters were, and you could actually care about them and like imagine them like you would a comic book character, a million adventures they'd have. But that said, when you're going for a joke, I want to have enough jokes in there that there's some, some puns, some dad humor, and of course the violence should be cool at times, but there should also be times where the violence is just like, how do you not laugh out loud when he like, when someone's skin or face is ripped off? If it should be funny. This isn't the movie where you cringe and are horrified. Some people I'm sure will be, but yes, those moments I want to play for a big laugh, but then hopefully we can shift gears and have two characters in a quiet moment, and you maybe even give a shit about their relationship.
Yeah, like they're Lou and God, more spoilers. Uh, he builds a relationship with somebody in this film,
Yeah,
and I want to see where that goes
yeah, good.
because
That's what we.
they have a very intimate connection, and I'm not just talking sex, that I can't talk about because it's a huge spoiler. But I've definitely, I was very interested. I want to see where that goes, and now, when it comes down to it, um, at the end of the day, were you happy with the film? Because I know a lot of people who make things are always like, I could have done that. I go back. You know what I mean? Like, I guess the guys from South Park hate the shows after they go out because they feel like they could have done more.
Yeah, I'm the wrong person to ask because I do feel that way. I mean, by the time you're done something, you go through every up and down. While you're shooting it, I feel like it's a high, and you think like we're unstoppable. And then you look at the footage for the first time when the dust settles, and you're like, oh my God, this is all we got. This is garbage. And then you kind of assemble it, and hopefully you start loving it again. But by the time you're done editing, you've watched it about 100 times, and you never want to look at it again. So I watched it at Fantasia in Montreal with a crowd, and that was like amazing to get to hear people reacting the way you'd hope they would. But yeah, no, there are many things I don't like about the film, so it's hard for me to watch. But when you are not loving something, it's great to watch it with fresh people who have never seen it, and it takes a bit of the sting out when a bunch of people laugh or scream at something exactly where you wanted them to,
We're on awesome. Now let's. I was at your Instagram has a bunch of behind the scenes photos, which are awesome. Now I have a couple of quick questions before I let you go here. What can you tell me about Atomic Victory Squad?
That's one of my babies right now. It's a comic book that I'm working on with my friends, Emerson Ziffel, who's the effects artist actually of Wolf Cop, and also Joel Hustack, who's like a concept artist who's done some work. I don't know if you remember in the first Wolf Cop, Lou gets an occult book. He
Yes.
did the art. He did the art in that occult book.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, they're both a couple of really talented artists, and Atomic Victory Squad is basically reactionary to Wolf Cop. and the budgets you have on independent films. I wanted to do something with a giant scope and, building smashing and crazy superheroes and the same weird tone as Wolf Cop. So I had these characters, and Emerson's like, well, let's make a comic. So right now, that's kind of our side project in between making movies and other things. We're obsessively trying to learn how to make a comic book for the first time, and it's really fun. And I hope it's out within a year and people can see it because it's going to be really unique and messed up.
Well, that's why I like my comics messed up.
Me too.
Now let's one more thing on here. One more hashtag. Super Grid movie.
Yeah, Super Grid. That's a post-apocalyptic film, kind of in the vein of like Mad Max or Escape from New York. Again, shot with a lot of the same team in Saskatchewan, and so it's a very Canadian apocalypse film. And it's produced by Hugh Patterson, who is one of the producers on Wolf Cop, and it's something he's been developing for a while. And he said, "I want to do this movie," and he got financing, and he asked me to direct. So I was very happy to jump on board. We're editing it right now. We just basically shot it this earlier in the summer, and it's really fun. It's kind of a little more serious than Wolf Cop for sure, but there's still a bit of humor, and it's kick-ass and crazy and action. And once again, it's Leo Fafard who plays Wolf Cop. He's kind of our Snake Plissken of the movie, I'd say.
Sold. There you go. Done. Sold. That's all I had to hear. So now, when do you see that coming out?
That's a great question. We're editing now, so it's the weird things with movies are like it's not necessarily when they're done. It's when the distributors want to release them or when the producers make deals with someone. So I think it'll come out next year. I can't be any more specific than that. I mean, I thought Another Wolf Cop would already be out now, but it's been done for almost a year. But I think again, it comes down to the producers figuring out when is the best release date. So luckily, Wolf Cop 2, without spoiling anything, is a Christmas movie. So I'm pretty excited that it's going to come out theatrically December 8th, which they tell me. So I think that's going to be awesome. And Super Grid, frankly, I'll be shocked if it doesn't follow too much further behind. It could be within 6 months or so.
That's fantastic. Lowell, thank you so much for coming on. Everybody, December 8th, go see Another Wolf Cop. Go back and watch the original Wolf Cop. Head over to wolfcop.com. They got some cool stuff that you can buy, like the Blu-ray and the DVD, and there's some signed stuff too. Just head and one more thing. Is there going to be any more Wolf Cop comics?
We're talking about it. I know we kind of did the first three just as a trial run, and I don't know what the result was, but
I love
there's
it.
always a conversation. Yeah, there's always a conversation, and what I'm pushing for, hoping is, I mean, I don't think we'll get a long-term crazy run, but I'd love to see some crossover comics, with other existing characters. So that would be fun to me to do mini runs, like Wolf Cop. I don't know, meet someone like Ash, or why can't Wolf Cop fight a predator?
Or Wolf Cop and RoboCop team up.
Oh, it's perfect.
There you
That'd be
go.
great.
That's the scariest police force ever. But I want to thank you so much for coming on. I can't stress enough, everybody, go out and see Another Wolf Cop. It is so much fun, and you won't even think about Kevin Smith appropriating Canadian hockey jerseys. But again, thank you, Lowell, so much for coming on. It's been a blast. We'll have to have you come back on when Super Grid comes out, and when Wolf Cop 3. Do you have any titles going around the back of your head for what Wolf Cop 3 would be called?
I have like two or three, and I will not share them because I don't know what's going to happen.
Fair enough, fair enough. But hey, you're thinking of part 3, and that's all that matters. Because
Yeah,
this
exactly.
is this is awesome. All right, again, Lowell, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll definitely have to have you come back on when Super Grid comes out, because I cannot wait for that. Or when the comic gets done.
Sure. Yeah.
I,
Thank
I,
you very much, Ron.